Hello again. I'm Dr. Reese with another brief video introducing our book entitled Our Shared Illusions, What Neuroscience Can Tell Us About Our Mind, Our Planet, and Our Future. In chapter 4 of this book, we introduce the idea of the default mode network, a machine, a neural network in the brain that is restlessly active, self-referential, running, sometimes out of awareness much of the time, but always active unless we focus our attention on a specific topic or a specific task. So I entitled this video, "What is the most precious resource in the world?" People may give answers like, well, obviously it's oil, fossil fuels, some other form of energy, maybe a futuristic type of energy such as nuclear fusion, anything that can help us promote our survival here on the planet. I think these answers are all incorrect. The most endangered and most precious resource in the world is attention. Without attention, you are not really conscious and aware. You can spend entire hours during your day being inattentive and not really being aware of what has happened during these hours during the day. Now, why would this be? I invite you to do a simple test. Sit as I do in a quiet place, close your eyes, and focus your attention on the sensation of breathing. Identify where you most clearly feel the breath, either in your nose, your abdomen, rising and falling, your chest, wherever it is. Focus your attention only on that. Try to do this for 5 minutes. I think you will notice almost immediately that your thoughts try to wander away and distract you from paying exclusive attention to the sensation of breathing. This, of course, is the notion of meditation, to calm the mind and to focus your attention on only one item. Other forms of meditation include the awareness of everything that's happening in your mind, paying attention to everything at once, yet being the unperturbed observer who is not rattled by the various items of content that might be running around in your mind in this wide open focus of attention. But usually for beginners, and for us here, the task will be to only focus on the breath. I think you will notice, as I have and many others who started in meditation, this is an extremely challenging and difficult task. Why would that be? Why couldn't we just harness our attentional facilities on one thing at a time? As it turns out, it was discovered perhaps 20 or so years ago that there is an extensive network in the brain. This network in the brain remained undetected for many, many decades of neuroscience and was found almost by accident. This is elaborated in chapter 4 of our book. You might consult that and learn about this fascinating history. So then, this machine, this circuit in the brain, is relentlessly active, and it deals in a certain coinage. It is only preoccupied with self-referential thought. How did my talk go yesterday? What will happen when I receive this letter warning me about this or that? What will I eat for dinner later today? What was the impact of the last video that I put on Invisible Glitch? And so on and so forth. So always revolving around me and what I am concerned with. This circuitry also allows for time travel. You can project yourself into the future. What might I do tomorrow? Or you project yourself into the past. How did that act or that idea influence my future development up to the current moment? It is relentlessly self-referential. We are not the only species who have a default mode network, as it is called. Default mode because when you don't focus on something, the brain will default to running this network and kind of entertaining you, often out of conscious awareness. It has been installed through evolution already in rodents. Rats have a default mode network. I don't know what rats use this ability for, but perhaps they do some planning, some evaluation of their activities and how it affects their immediate life as well. Now, as it turns out, the more time you spend in mind wandering, which has become the classical term for this activity, the less you feel happy and content. It is as though if you are able to focus on an activity and be absorbed in it, those are the times when you're most content and happy in your life. Now, we can train ourselves to become more attentive, for example, through the method of meditation. And as the theory would predict, if we improve attention, the activity of the default mode network should decrease in response to that. And that is exactly what happens. There are other ways to suddenly shut down the activity of the default mode network, and that is through psychedelic drugs such as LSD or psilocybin. The activity of the default mode network almost goes down to zero. Now, many other things happen. Many new connections are made in the brain during a psychedelic experience, but it is perhaps in part the decoupling of our sense of self from the relentless default mode network activity that allows for new connections being made in the brain and thus producing the amazing salutary therapeutic effects of psychedelic medicine, such as in the treatment of treatment-resistant depression, other psychiatric disorders, as well as addictions. This is also elaborated in chapter 4 of our book. Now, this is kind of the situation we found ourselves in before the invention of social media. You can imagine that the default mode network needs things to think about. It needs content to elaborate on. It needs things to speculate about. And with the advent of social media, the barrage of material, of content available to the default mode network to worry and cogitate about has increased exponentially. We can now worry about so many more things than we used to be able to because the content was not available to us. We know from clinical studies that particularly young people spending a great deal of time on social media networks often suffer from depression and increased anxiety, conditions that are also associated with increased activity of the default mode network. Consider this: the most valuable companies currently on the planet are not Exxon Oil or other companies dealing in fossil fuels. It is companies who deal in attention. Facebook, other social media that grab your attention and whose algorithms are tuned in such a way that they exploit the attention mechanism to spend more and more time on social media. It's called engagement, a very neutral sounding term. In fact, it's a devilish, clever way to catch your eyeballs and keep them and feed your default mode network with more and more often bizarre and faulty, non-verified content. So you live in an expanded internal universe driven by the default mode network that the social media have been able to tap into and to exploit. This situation can only get worse with the advent of social media. Whereas humans used to produce the content for social media, now you can have AI bots produce a vast array of content which will evermore engage your default mode network, distract you from attention and from focusing on relevant items in your life. So this is a serious situation. More and more money can be made by grabbing attention, capturing and selling it, than by drilling for oil. Drill, baby, drill has been substituted by look at me, look at me. Thank you for your attention. I'll be soon back with another brief video on our book, Our Shared Illusion. Thank you.